All right, 12-team playoff. We get it next year. But how we got it this year, now you're talking about an opportunity for a Kansas State, for a TCU, for a UCF who looks good. Even in a loss to Kansas State, looked good. You're talking about more teams with a chance to play in the college football playoff. But right now, the Big 12 in the playoff down to a two-dog race. Oklahoma and Texas. The last two dogs we needed it to be. This would have been the perfect year for 12 teams.
Yeah, and it really comes down to, like, if you look at last year, how interesting that would have been. Kansas State would have been in because they were a conference champion.
Yep.
They would have been in one of the – they would have actually had a bye. And yet –
yeah, and TCU wouldn't.
TCU would have been in there still as one of the 12, but they wouldn't have gotten the bye. And yet, because we're in this stage of it still, TCU gets in and Kansas State did not. It's a very interesting look. Probably the best one across the board as to – how different these two tournaments could be. And so when you look at it this year, yeah, right now it's kind of looking like Oklahoma and Texas are the front runners. You could possibly get both of them in if they both go into, say, whoever loses their matchup in Dallas would then win the conference championship game. I can see both going.
Yeah.
If one of them loses and then loses again, probably not. And right now, I don't know if another team is really going to step forward. Maybe Kansas. They're looking pretty good. Are they better than Oklahoma? I'd like to see. I'd like to see how that goes in terms of that. In terms of who makes it, though, unfortunately, this year Oklahoma and Texas are kind of really standing out. But going forward, especially next year, man. Hopefully, there are some standouts in the Big 12, and they don't just kind of beat each other across the board, but there's a lot of possibilities with it.
And I know that you like that part, the parity. There is the luster of the fact that there's not a one true team in the Big 12 that's going to dominate year in and year out. I don't think Colorado will be that when they get in. I don't think Utah will be that when they get in. And even before I ask this question, do you agree with that assessment? Because Colorado and Utah are both good.
Yeah.
But will they dominate?
I think Colorado's going to be pretty tough next year. I think I think he has got a 2-year plan. I don't think it's a 1-year plan. The first year of transfer portal for him was a quality, or actually I'd say a quantity. He needed to get a lot of players. Second one is going to be quality. He's not going to be, because first year coaches can get a lot more out of the transfer portal than you can. So he's got to focus in on quality, and he's got to do it on the line. But I think if you're a lineman right now, you're looking at them now with a much different light than you were, say, before the season. Going, do I want to take a chance and go there? But if you are now, and they're going into the Big 12, and you know that you have a pretty good chance to go all the way to the CFP, I think he's going to have people calling, and I think they're going to be some studs that are maybe going into their senior year saying, that's my shot. That's my shot. So, and I think the same is with Utah. If you're someone on the offensive side and you're seeing this defense holding them in with their second and third string backup quarterbacks going undefeated, who saw that? So I think Utah could be a player as well next year. You got some tough ones coming in. You got Dillingham in Arizona State kind of showing up and making the calls himself this week, saying, this is what the team is supposed to be. That wasn't. So it's going to be tough. TCU could be back. Baylor could be back. Maybe Houston gets their stuff together. Texas Tech maybe has the year that they should have had this year. Who knows? It could be a fun conference to watch next year.
Yeah, and again, I think that's what makes it great, is that maybe Colorado is good, but we don't know. If Georgia was coming to the conference next year, you'd be like, okay, this is
right.
It's obvious how this story is going to end. But here you still have so much that is up for grabs in this league. And of course, Utah brings quality. Hopefully, Jed Fish can turn things around at Arizona. As for this 12-team format, though, do you think, because we're talking about how intriguing this would be, basketball gets 64, football could never do that. But is there a path for further expansion of the playoff as we go down the line? Because the FCS has done 24 successfully for years now.
Most people say yes. I kind of have a different view on this, and it's based upon what Yormark said. During his interview with Joe Klatt, he said that the 2026 was a blank slate. I take him on his word. And so for me, I could just sit here and say, yeah, we're going to 16, That's not so much fun. I kind of have some other views in terms of where they could go, because what we have is a regular season where it is supply heavy. There's no more money in paying for regular season. The postseason is demand heavy. There is a lot more room for more games there. So if you just go to 16, you're adding a little bit of games, but you're not really meeting demand. So I'm kind of looking for something that adds more than that. And so depending upon where some rule making goes, we could see something even bigger.
A 24, a 32, maybe even the 64 that I wrote off already.
Conference playoffs that lead into a national tournament of champions.
I mean, and look, the NFL, almost half the league makes the playoffs.
That's what the NFL is. It's 2 conference playoffs that lead to a Super Bowl. That's really all it is. Yep. And so it would be the NFL model that everyone thinks that they're going to take up. It'd be, if you have a 20 to 24 team conference, all of a sudden now having a conference playoff, if you say have 4, 5, or 6 divisions with, all these division champs coming into it, it's a much different game. And, saying like the Big 10 or the Big 12, which are coast to coast, you're giving people a coast to coast product in your conference playoff. I don't know if it's happening. It's just kind of an interesting discussion point.
And it doesn't dilute the regular season because NFL still sells out stadiums in week 9. So
it actually improves the value of the regular season because now your division champs matter.
100%. And so if you lose 2 games, your year's not over. Like in the current model, why show up the rest of the way? Like,
I'm not a big fan of rankings based results. I'm more of a fan of on-field based results. And if you end up having another loss or 2 to someone else, I don't care. If you got there because of what you did on the field, that should be what's rewarded.
100%. Immaculate, you nailed it. You nailed the whole show today. Thank you for joining Locked On Big 12, bringing that insight to everybody here. How can they find you and your work?
Well, you can find me on Twitter X. I am at An Immaculate View. Currently right there. That's where I'm giving my perspectives on all of this going on. And you might see me on YouTube here pretty soon. We shall see. But I do appreciate you having me on today, Drake. Absolutely. That is immaculate. Given name, birth name, middle and last. Again, everybody out there, thanks for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. This has been, it always will be, Locked On. I'm going to say it again. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.